Hey everybody, mel0n here. Welcome back to another video. Today we are taking a look at another arm sleeve competitor coming into the market, similarly to how Pulsar just released their ES sleeves. We also have the Focus Pro arm sleeve that just launched a couple weeks ago, and we are taking a look at that today. Now, as I said when I reviewed the Pulsar ES sleeves, arm sleeves are one of those things where you have to have a very niche kind of feature to them to make them kind of stand out from the competition, because again, the arm sleeve market as a whole is very oversaturated. Pretty much every company does make an arm sleeve of some variety, and you really have to have a unique feature to your arm sleeve to make it stand out against everyone else. Pulsar definitely had that with their ES sleeves, where they were very thin, very breathable, but still maintained a lot of the flexibility, and they were still very strong and they didn't wear down over time. They actually felt quite good overall, and it'll be interesting to see if the Focus Pro sleeve has something that can kind of stand out against the Pulsar ES sleeves and their other competition to kind of stand out against everyone else. Now, quick disclaimer before we get started, Focus did send this out for review, so thank you very much to them, and as always, I will have the product link and timestamps down in the description if you're looking for a particular topic. Now, the Focus Pro sleeve comes in at around $23 Canadian. There would be some slight variance of the pricing depending where you get it from. I know if you go to Lethal Gaming Gear, it is $24 on their website, but depending on your regional distributor, there may be some slight differences in the overall pricing. It comes in multiple sizes, so it comes in a small, medium, large, extra large, and a 2XL. This is one of the big areas where the Focus sleeve does differ itself from the Pulsar sleeves, because the Pulsar sleeves only have a medium and a large option, and the Focus sleeve does have significantly more options. Now, one area where the Pulsar ES sleeves does have a bit of an edge here is that the Pulsar sleeves, as you guys saw in my review, have multiple different options. So they have a palm, finger, and arm long, and they also have the glove design, whereas the Focus sleeve only comes in an arm design, and it is an arm long design, so there's no short design currently. Now, seeing as Focus is definitely a smaller company than Pulsar, I don't really blame them for just doing one arm sleeve design as opposed to multiple versions as a Pulsar did, because again, the cost to manufacture R&D and QC and all this stuff is very expensive. And I actually kind of like the approach that Focus took here, where it's better to have one really good arm sleeve than like 7 different kinds of arm sleeves that are kind of mid. So I actually do like this approach, and I do know that Focus is already working on a new versions of their arm sleeve, so we may have new versions coming out in the near future that are a finger or a palm long competitor to the Pulsar ES sleeve. But for the focus of this review, I will be comparing the Focus Pro arm sleeve directly to the arm long version of the Pulsar ES sleeve, because it's kind of unfair for me to compare an arm sleeve to a palm sleeve. That's not really fair in my opinion, so we'll be just comparing it directly one for one. Alrighty, let's talk material composition. So the Focus sleeve is made out of 85% nylon and 15% spandex. Again, it's going to have, I would probably say, identical stretch and overall feeling to the Pulsar ES sleeve. I will say though that the material on the Focus sleeve is significantly thicker. I actually do prefer this. The thicker material, in terms of long-term durability, I just prefer the feel of it overall. Again, the Pulsar ES sleeves were very, very thin and didn't offer a lot of breathability, but the Focus sleeve still does have that breathability, stretchability, all that good stuff you want, just a bit of a thicker material. Now, as I mentioned before, one of the biggest things with the arm sleeves, you have to have kind of a niche little thing that kind of sets it apart from the competition in order to make it stand out. Focus has actually done that here in terms of this little gel silicone kind of wrapping inside the upper band stitching here. So if we flip this inside out, you can see that there's 2 wavy rubber lines of silicone here that are just embedded inside the top band here. Now, this serves as an anchoring point against your skin to prevent the sleeve from shifting. Now, personally speaking, I really haven't had any issues with sleeves shifting at my bicep at the top of the sleeve. I find it more the sleeves tend to shift towards my wrist. Now, again, that's just me. It may be different for other people, but I do really like this idea of the silicone band inside the stitching. I think that on a future version of these sleeves, it would actually be really nice to see just a single line of this gel silicone on the wrist, actually, just to prevent the wrist area from shifting as much, because again, that's the area I feel like shifts the most during gameplay. There's friction against the pad, and of course, depending on what kind of pad you're using, there may be more or less friction, but in my case, I find that the wrist is the area that shifts the most. I think that would be a nice thing to see. I will say it's not necessary entirely for the Focus sleeve in particular, because I did find that due to the thicker material on here compared to the ES sleeves and other sleeves, it didn't actually shift that much, and again, because of the thicker material, it is a lot more resistant to wrinkling and that kind of stuff during gameplay. So even on like higher friction pads like the IKEA pad or the Aqua Control Plus, I really never had any issues with it kind of bunching up on my wrist or pulling down. It felt pretty good overall, but depending on your physiology and that kind of things, you may have different areas where you find the sleeve shifts more or less. But again, something that would be nice to see in the future is maybe just adding one of these silicone rubber gel bands into the actual wrist sleeve. That would be something nice to see going forward. Now, as I mentioned before, the materials is 85% nylon, 15% spandex. Now, opposed to the Pulsar sleeves, which are 80% nylon, 20% spandex, I say they feel pretty similar. I didn't really notice that huge of a difference in terms of stretching between the two. The material is, as I mentioned before, definitely thicker, but it still does feel quite good. I actually do really like the feeling of the thicker pad on my arm, as I mentioned before, just because it's thicker, it's more resistant to wrinkles and that kind of stuff. It does help a lot. I did find that it really fit my arm really well. I did say at the first it was quite tight, specifically up at this top band is quite tight, and it did kind of leave a bit of an imprint on my arm up at the top. Now, that may have just been because I ordered a size too small. I ordered the large. Maybe I should have ordered the extra large. It is a difference of 2 centimeters in the bicep, but I don't really think it would have made that much of a difference. But it did stretch over time, and it did conform to my arm a little bit, so that is something to note. But overall, I did find it to be really comfortable. It does have really good breathability. The fabric, again, again, due to the thickness, is really nice. And overall, the stitching I did feel was quite good. I did notice that up at the top band here, this little focus logo they put on the top band did come off pretty quickly. Now that may have been just because, again, I ordered a size that may have been a little too small for me, and because I just stretched the band so much to get it over my bicep, that could have been a fault point there. But I think it would have been better to have, like, you can see down here where the wrist of the sleeve is, there's this little printed on focus logo here. I think it would have been better for them just to put a focus logo print on the actual top of the sleeve here. That would probably been a little better, because this little like patch here that goes in the band, it looks like it just being held on by a couple threads literally. That may be something they want to change in the future. That doesn't really affect the usability of the sleeve, but it is something I wanted to note regardless. But in terms of the overall stitching and quality of the sleeve, it feels really solid. And again, just because the sleeve is a lot thicker, I kind of trust it a little more than I did the Pulsar sleeves, because again, the Pulsar sleeves are so thin. I do have questions about long-term durability. I don't really have the same questions here with the focus sleeve. I think the only point of failure I can think of the sleeve is going to be the top banding here, because again, this is so thick and it has to stretch so much to get over my arm. I can feel like this is the only area that may give out in the future. But overall, I think the build quality of the sleeve is really solid. Overall, the materials are really good. Overall, I really do like the feel of it. Alrighty, now let's talk about in-game performance. So I tested both of the Focus Pro sleeve and my old ES sleeve on a Serapad Kin, a mystery glass pass that I can't quite talk about yet, my Focus Ambition here, both of my IKEA pads, the black and the patterned version respectively, my Aqua Control Plus, and a couple other pads I had laying around. The majority of my testing was on the Focus Ambition and the mystery glass pad, and I will say between the two, I think they felt pretty much identical. I really didn't notice a difference between the two. Like if I was mid-round in Overwatch, I played one round on the Pulsar sleeve and one round on the Focus sleeve. I couldn't really tell a difference between the two, aside from the Focus sleeve due to the thicker fabric being a little more resistant to wrinkling and bunching up on my wrist. Again, not a huge difference. Again, that's very much of kind of like individualistic thing, so it's not going to be something that kind of affects everyone more, just myself. But between the two, I really didn't find that much of a difference. Alrighty, now before I go into my final thoughts, I did want to talk about one weird marketing thing I did notice about the Focus sleeves here. So as you know, the Focus sleeve, the top banding, as I mentioned before, was a little tight, and I did say it kind of did leave a bit of a mark on my arm actually after using it a long time. Like if you're using this for a couple hours, you take it off, this is going to leave a mark in your arm for a little bit, just because of the compression on your arm there due to how strong it is. The interesting part about this is that there's actually a reason for this according to their marketing. Now this one definitely caught me a little off guard, so take this with a grain of salt, but I'm going to quote from their website here. The sleeve, the Focus Pro sleeve, features a signature silicone gel band around the top of the bicep to prevent slipping and the need for readjustment whilst playing, and it also acts as a compression band to provide better blood flow while playing for long periods of time. Now this is one of those things I don't really know what I think of. This is kind of feels similar to me where like Pulsar, and when they did the branding for the ES sleeves, they kind of just said, oh, they're the best for glass pads, which was kind of just like one of those really weird arbitrary things that they kind of threw into the marketing. This definitely kind of feels like that. However, I do kind of lean in towards it may actually be true, because the top band is very tight and it definitely kind of does give that feeling that you're getting your blood pressure taken to a degree. Now, some people may not like that, which I completely understand. I will say after a couple minutes, you do get used to it. Now, I don't know if this is like a valid marketing claim, because like I don't see any empirical evidence for this actually making a difference. I would love to see like if someone has like a legitimate study saying, hey, a compression band on your arm during gameplay does actually make an empirical difference in your performance. That'd be something I'd be very interested in looking into. I'm looking on the marketing page right now. I don't really see anything else for it, so it's kind of just thrown in there, which is something I just kind of thought was a little odd. It's not one of those things where I'm going to say they're lying, and it's not one of those things I'm going to say it's true, because again, I have no way of testing it. I would love to see some like actual empirical evidence showing it does make a difference, but it is something I kind of wanted to take note of due to this tightness up at the top. Some people may be turned off to this sleeve just because again, it is quite tight. So if you are someone who's kind of sensitive to that feeling of kind of the very tightness around your bicep and it kind of feels like you're getting your blood pressure taken, this may not be the greatest fit for you just because of that, but it is something I wanted to note regardless, just because it is something that just kind of caught my eye. Alrighty, well, it's time for final thoughts. I think overall, I actually do quite like the Focus sleeve. Again, I'm a little questioning of their entire marketing with the whole compression branding thing. Again, it's kind of an odd thing, but again, I had the same issue with the Pulsar, so I'm not really going to knock them any points for that. But I will say overall, again, this being Focus's first try at an arm sleeve and comparing it against Pulsar's first try for an arm sleeve, I really do think they have done a really good job. As I mentioned before, Focus does have a slight edge over Pulsar right now because they have more sizing options for their arm sleeve, but they do lack the versatility that Pulsar does offer with their lineup. And of course, Pulsar has less sizing, but more options. Focus has better sizing, less options. And of course, I'm sure Focus is already working on new sleeves, again, probably to compete with Pulsar's lineup. So we'll probably see a glove design, or maybe we'll see a finger or a palm long coming in the near future. But overall, I do think the Focus sleeve is quite good. Again, as the one kind of tidbit that may turn a lot of people off from it is the tightness at the top of the band. Aside from that, I do think it is a very solid sleeve. I do really quite like it. I think this is a tough one for me because again, they're so similar between the Pulsar sleeve and this one. There's a lot of things that are kind of similar. I think I do prefer prefer the focus sleeve over the Pulsar ones just because the material is thicker. I think that's the big thing for me. Of course, we'll have to see it in terms of long-term durability, because again, that's one of the big things I kind of question about Pulsar sleeve. How long are they going to last is a big question. It'll be kind of the same question here with the focus sleeve. I'll probably make a video in a couple months following up on both of these sleeves to kind of see how both of them fared out. I have a feeling the focus sleeve is probably going to do a little better than the Pulsar sleeve, but we'll see what happens with that. Thank you again for watching. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you again to Focus for sending us out for review. I had a really nice time reviewing this sleeve, and I'll probably be using it for a good time going forward. So thank you very much for sending that out. As always, I'll have the product page linked down in the description for you. I will be linking their site, and I know Lethal Gaming Gear and NA does carry these as well, but in other regions they may be different distributors. So go ahead and check their website if you are interested in picking this product up, and you can find a local distributor that will be selling the product for you as well. But again, that's everything for today. Thank you very much again for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.